Welcome over the top podcast. It's your boy HD here with the podcast crew. We got brother Q Quick. What's going on, bro?
Hey, rumor has it Tucker Carlson got fired for telling the truth.
Well, you know how Fox, we know how Fox News is. They don't like truth tellers. RJ, what's going on, brother?
Hey man, doing excellent today.
Good,
ready to go.
Good. We're fired up, ready to go. We got the playmaker. What's going on, man?
Oh, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Cool. And as always, we are Over the Top Podcast. We do have our Over the Top Podcast Facebook page. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. That definitely helps out the content and some of the things that we're trying to do and bring to you guys.
Bullying online may soon land you in prison.
Yes, today local lawmakers rolled out a harsh new plan. If the proposal passes, cyberbullies will find themselves far away from keyboards and instead under lock and key. CBS 2's Emily Smith has the story.
Megan Jurensky looks like she has it all. As former Miss New York, she's a true beauty queen and recently married the man of her dreams. But in 2014, while newly dating, he all but ended things, asking her why she would be on Match.com looking for, quote, Mr. Big.
Even though it was full of complete lies, I actually felt embarrassed and ashamed, and I felt at a loss of control. I also felt very alone.
The dating profile came from someone named 1078 Yogi. It had Jurensky's photos on it, along with her birthday and favorite hobby, yoga. It also gave a list of made-up prerequisites. You take me to fancy places. You give me expensive gifts. You give me a credit card and let me go on shopping sprees. The emotional trauma ultimately inspired Jurensky to start a campaign called In Plain Sight, an anti-cyberbullying group.
Today we stand here in support of the E-Impersonation Prevention Act, which broadens the definition of cyberbullying and elevates the crime from a mere misdemeanor to a felony.
That means a convicted cyberbully could spend up to 7 years behind bars. It wouldn't stop people from simply making cruel comments, but it's a step in that direction.
If you put up a profile that was another Kevin Parker profile and it started putting up negative things about me that weren't true, I certainly could take that evidence, screenshot it, or provide it to the police. And now, under this law, there would now be a way to, in fact, prosecute those people in a more significant way.
You think it would stop people in the future from doing it?
If it has real consequences, then yes.
The bill has cleared a key Senate committee. The full Senate will soon vote. It could become law by next year. Emily Smith, CBS 2 News.
But first, of course, the Assembly would also have to approve the bill, and then the governor. The only other state with a similar law in effect is in California.
We're going to touch on a different subject matter, something, we're touching on cyberbullying. I know growing up, this is just kind of new to our generation because we didn't have with bullying when it was done face to face. If there was bullying, it was bullying that I was done. But it wasn't done on the computer and the internet. So it's kind of gives us a different take, more of an education to parents, man, and kind of keep an eye on your kids and what's going on in their life and what they're doing. But that jump right into it. Cyberbullying it happens through digital devices such as your phones, computers. Have over social media, text, messaging, instant messaging, gaming. Cyberbullying often takes the form of sending harmful or meaning content about someone and embarrassing them and inserting it across humanity across the web. Cyberbullying is a known threat or threatening other people, and kind of making them feel bad, But let's go look at some stats a little bit. We always look at little stats, kind of give us a baseline of what we're looking at. 42% of the members of the LGBTQ community have said they've been bullied online, which is a high number. 21% of the victims of cyberbullying are high school girls. Some with minority and with minority skin color. Where they say more black kids get bit bullied than white kids. The actual facts is there. 2/3 of the female victims on the internet harassment feel powerless, and 1/3 of our teenagers have explicit pictures and videos sent to them on social media without their warranty, and at least once during their lifetime. 34% of Americans have been harassed online at least once, and about 30% of all kids bullied online seek professional guidance or counseling. One more that I'm gonna go into is that youth that experience traditional bullying or cyberbullying are either offenders or victims, and have more suicidal thoughts, and we're more likely to try to attempt suicide than children that have not been cyber bullied. We're gonna go to our panel a little bit. And QQ, I'm gonna start with you, man. Do you believe that cyberbullying is a big deal in your generation time right now? What's going on with the kids?
Yes, it is. More so, like for the LGBTQ community, they get it a lot as of now, and even more specifically, of people who are transgender. I want to say they can get that the most. But so I wouldn't say it's a big deal for me in particular, because as much as I'm on social media, to YouTube, to TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, I'm on a lot of social media, but I don't get bullied like that, and I generally don't do any bullying either, because I'm an in-face type person. If I want something to your face, I won't say it over the phone. But yeah, right. there are definitely people who do experience that, and a lot of times it's from a real person, but it's a real person hiding behind a different name. You rarely see someone who is using their actual name. Jesus Christ, man.
Right. So, yeah, I'm gonna come with you, G, because I know at our generation we talked about before. What are some of the things you think we can do to protect cyberbullying? I know it's kind of a new subject for us, but what are some of the things you think we can do to kind of dive in this thing and protect our kids from cyberbullying?
You just covered it right there. I think our generation was the sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt. And I think when we talk to kids, we kind of think about that in the background. It's like, well, you know, if they're not physically touching you, if they're not putting their hands on you, that is not really something that is of concern. But I think now we have to look at it differently. Say, hey, it's not just the physical attack that we have to be concerned with. It is also the mental and emotional attack. So I think we have to, as adults, change our way of looking at bullying and not compare it to when we were growing up.
That's definitely understood, man. So the Center of Disease Control and Prevention showed that 14.9% of all adolescents have been cyberbullied. 13.5% of all adolescents have made some serious suicidal thoughts. I'm gonna go with you that you are our mental health professional on the panel today. When you deal with kids and you deal with kids on a daily basis, what are you seeing when it comes to cyberbullying with kids? Are you seeing a hard attack, or is it something that we not really zeroed in on?
What I'm seeing is a real profound impact on some of the kids that I work with. Some of the kids that I work with that are ASD or on the spectrum have a significant problem with social interaction from the beginning. And a lot of their social interaction is framed around gameplay or playing in networks of peers that participate in group games. And during those games, sometimes people cheat or kind of misrepresent themselves or call names or say things that may not necessarily be proper or right. And it has a profound impact on the kids that we work with. I had a kid, man, he broke 2 TVs maybe within a month. A lot of the times when he's having psychiatric issues or behavioral issues, it's directly correlated with him having a circumstance where he's triggered by the game and a peer that is saying something or doing something to him. So essentially, what I am seeing is kids be affected in based upon their gameplay. The other aspect of it is social media. Social media, Instagram, man, oh my God, is bad. for the gang activity, for the fights, threats, comments, negative stuff that it said. Last year was an eye-opening year being in an educational setting with high school students, and it was different from what I thought it would be. It was actually pretty cool, but I learned a lot about how they integrate and interact with each other in a social setting via social media, and they take a lot of shots, and it's really kind of scary that they do and say things on social media that they generally won't say to each other.
Right. Quinn, I'm gonna come with you. I know you and the teacher professor. You gonna deal with. We kind of not necessarily want to limit it to the kids or the babies, but I think that's where you're seeing a lot of it. We talked about the kids that's being bullied. What do you think the mental status of the kids that's doing the bullying? Is that a correlation to? Why do you think kids bully other kids? Is that I ain't gonna try to answer the question and answer. I'm gonna leave it open to you. Why do you think kids bullies other kids? What's your perspective?
They like the power they think they feel from it. They probably feel powerless in one area, most likely from home, or to the opposite extreme is that's how their parents like raised them to act like that, and then in return they either crave the power that being power over someone gives them, or they're told, hey, you are in charge, you should be in charge of everybody. That's one of the two ways where it comes from. Either it's the kick the dog syndrome, or it's the parents teach them.
Not kick the dog syndrome.
That was funny.
That's clever. Yes, but G, I'm gonna come with you, and I know we're kind of bearing off the topic, but I'm just kind of leading by the conversation. So when you look at these kids, and you look at kids do become adults. In the workplace, have you kind of sensed, okay, this person act a certain way, or maybe narcissistic, or have you seen bullying? Have you seen kids you see adults bully other adults in the workplace? Let's go there, right? You see, or is there a correlation with being a bully in high school or grade school? Now you're a bully as an adult.
So I think you a little bit differently, and I think in things you see with some bullying, it is gender-based. You have guys who a complex who feel that they have to have authority over women, and you translate when you go into the workplace. You also see it in discrimination as far as race relations. So if people are discriminating people in the high school, middle school, or high school, elementary, and they have that hate already in their hearts and in their psyches, it also shows in the workplace. I mean, they have different tools throughout these different medias or levels. So they have to kind of taper it back a little bit. But if you were bullying people because of their race in elementary school, then you're probably going to find a way to bully people in the workplace once you get established in your career.
Well, I'm gonna come at you with another mental health question. Is the bullier what is the mens rea you think, or the mental aspect of the bullier to the bullyee? Is that more so? And the reason I'm asking, because I'm trying to get the mindset on both ends, so we can kind of narrow it down to kind of see if we can kind of break it down to be more helpful than dealing with or seeing them. But what do you think is the mental psyche of those kids? Because we always talk about the cops, you know, we always tease the cop when the cop a little aggressive or a little hot-headed, or he must have been bullied when he was a kid, because now he carrying a gun and he think he a big guy. Does that relate, or is that something that we just make up ourselves?
Well, I'm gonna throw my idea out there, but I'll let Ron clean it up since this is his area. But in a lot of cases, when you talk about the police officer, it is he was bullied and didn't feel like he had power or authority. So now he is in a position of power and authority, and therefore he is abusing that power and authority. So I think, and then I think when you look for one common trait, I don't think you're going to find one common trait for a bully, because I think people bully for different reasons. I think there's more than just one trait that you can identify, whether it's racism, whether it's they having issues at home and they're trying to act out on things that they've been seeing, whether they have a Napoleon complex, which, you know, they feel like they're undersized, so therefore they have to, for their small nature, by bullying people who are bigger or who may come across as more dominant. So I think it's just different aspects or different reasons that I think it's hard to paint it into a box. But that's my opinion, so I'll direct it more toward our expert.
Piggyback on there, RJ.
No, true. The shortest and the most simplest way to put it: hurt people hurt people. It's just that simple. Essentially, a lot of times what these kids are identifying is that they're miserable inside their lives. Man, I find right now that a lot of kids don't like themselves, and their self-esteem is uniquely impacted, especially adolescence. Adolescence is a real tough age, and a tough age group to teach and educate. Anybody that wants to educate adolescents, young adolescents, man, y'all are, you Porto and my boy, you great. You're numero uno. However, that's the core issue. Hurt people hurt people. And so when you identify that a lot of these kids feel inadequate, what they do is they pass on those inadequacies, and they impact others through the things that they do and the statements that they make. So essentially, kids who are generally picked on essentially are a little less aggressive, more to themselves, not as popular, and essentially what ends up happening, it becomes a pack mentality, and people tend to pile up on people, man. And it makes me reflect on some of the behavior that we displayed in my elementary school that was very hurtful to a group of kids who were very poor, and this day I regret ever participating in it. But it was essentially a lot of my peers doing things to this particular family because they were poor. And it was very hurtful. It's very hurtful. It's like a scar mentally for me as the impact that I had on those kids, and the impact and the trauma I know that they're dealing with now as adults. Deep. Real deep.
Okay, this is conversation. How do us parents? I know you're not a parent yet, but you are going into the teaching profession, so you are just taking on a certain level of parental role with the children. What are some of ways, or what are some of ways? How do we kind of get a grasp on the bullying? How do we? You think there's signs that children say when they bully, or how do you think the best way of parents to get a grasp on this?
I'm sorry. Can you ask that one more time?
As a parent or a leader in the community with the children, how do you feel is the best way to get a handle on children that's being bullied? How do you deal with it? If you see a child being bullied, how do you deal with it from a teacher standpoint or a leader, a mentor standpoint, to kind of handle that?
You got to. First, you just got to be there for that child. You first try to stop whoever's bullying in the first place, but you got to be there for the child. Be there for the child who's being bullied. You gotta don't just let it happen. Don't just say let it go. You gotta. Sometimes you gotta be there as an outlet for them. Sometimes you got a lot of students get bullied. They're maybe the kids who have no one to talk to, or they're quiet. Sometimes it's about nothing. Sometimes just being there when they want to talk about it. Because another thing is that you're not going to force someone to talk about something they're not going to want to talk about. So it's just being there, and then working behind the scenes to get them the help they need. Whether it is talking to the parents, talking to the bully, talking to the bully's parents, figure out what is going on and why it's happening.
Okay.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the stats that I saw when I was preparing for this piece was 1 in 10 teen victims did not inform their parent or a trusted adult about their abuse. So what that tells me is that, piggybacking on what Q just said, is the kids have to be comfortable with someone. It doesn't necessarily have to be the parent, but it has to be someone that can help them resolve their situations. Everybody doesn't have the great relationship with their mom and dad where they can talk about any and everything. And, that's not going to change in some households, but they should have some adult, or the parent should make sure that there's someone, whether it's a uncle or cousin or someone that they feel that their child can talk to about anything. And as I was thinking about this piece, on the same lines as cyberbullying, but I was trying to think back to when my parents first had the conversation about sex to me. And my father didn't have that conversation to me until I was in my mid-20s. And my mom never had that conversation with me at all. And that was because I don't think they felt comfortable about talking about certain things to me. Now, if I was going through some bullying aspect, because we didn't have that kind of connection, I wouldn't have been able to talk to my parents. So I think it's very, very vital that if you don't have that kind of relationship with your parents, or your parents, as a parent, you don't have that kind of relationship with your children, make sure that there's someone that is in the circle of trust that they can talk to and communicate when they have issues.
I agree with that, and I think one of the main points is acknowledging that you're not, as a parent, you're not vice to deal with, or you're not, like you said, you're not comfortable having those conversations. You mentioned fighting with my father, so my father used to sit out there and watch me fight, and if I lost, come in, you see me back out there and fight again. So but that's the mentality we have. And Ron, I'm gonna go with you, because a lot of it, just like you said, like Quinn said, a lot of parents don't know. And with computer age and social media, we're giving kids phones at 3, 4, 5 years old. So they know how to operate a phone at 7 or 8. With all the technology out there, man, and you got teenagers, how do you deal with that? How do you monitor that to see what they're doing? What's the keys to that?
Man, I've seen some really industrious parents. I had a family, man. The young lady, man, she put she found some type of app and a source code that would really kind of limit what her children could surf the internet and do. And that's one of the more involved parents I've seen, and she was on it. She was on top of it. But a lot of other parents are not as industrious as her. There have been situations and circumstances where I have seen and had to pull up on circumstances with kids outside of my home where inappropriate things were done and seen and observed, and it is a total gross out. It's like nothing else to see a situation or circumstance where a child has made a poor choice and it's in the cyberspace and you can't pull it back. But then you also get them looking at content that they're not mature enough to understand and grasp. That's a major problem. That's an extremely major problem.
That is the big problem. There's so much stuff out there at one time.
Well, in terms of being able to have a perspective, it's just kind of an interesting thing. Me sitting down watching a program with my kids and breaking that program down. Some of those things I had to come to grips with and learn on my own. Some things my grandfather was a great teacher, and he taught me a lot of those things, but a lot of the reasons why I approach or have conversations with my kids about certain things, because it's important for me to do that. And I just feel like it's our job, but everybody's not as equipped.
Right. And now you definitely can see that. Quinn, I'm coming with you with this because I know a lot of parents right now, and I know you didn't necessarily a parent, but again, you're a mentor, so I'm gonna talk to you from the mentor perspective. But when you hear parents kind of say, well, my teenager won't do this, or my teenager or my child won't do that, nobody's bullying my child, or I'm gonna get my child he loves the phone and she's fine on the internet, ain't nothing gonna bother him, and becomes a babysitter. Do you find that being an issue when there's that lack of not say discipline, or a parent feel that their child is not going to get into issues like that? Do you think that isolation is one issues of getting caught up in cyberbullying?
Yes, because how a lot of parents are is a lot of parents say, "Oh, my child went like this." No, the child that they showed you went out like that. The child is not going to act the same in public as they are when their parent is around. They're going to act different usually they'll act different because depending on the parent, they'll know what happens if they get in trouble. So that's really the main thing. So parents normally they'll know what their kid is like, but then there's an extreme to what their child's like without them around. So if your child acts a certain way at home, you can expect them to when there's no adult around. Whatever personality you see, it's ramped up a lot, or worst case scenario, it's ramped up a lot in the opposite way. So. And I know I'm gonna have to expect this when it comes to parents. When parents are gonna come in and say, "Oh, my child wouldn't do that," and I'll say, "Yo, you don't see your child. There's 8 hours of the day that you don't see your child, so you can't say my child."
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you was there. What you say now?
No, I almost wasn't. I pretty much wasn't. I was just saying, there's 8 hours a day that you don't know what your child is doing unless I tell you. And if you're gonna say, "Oh, my child doesn't do that," I say, "You weren't here, I was. So how are you gonna say my child wouldn't do that when I saw your child do that?"
Right. Well, social media companies have now trying to address the incidents of cyberbullying on their platforms. They use mechanisms that include reporting tools that blocking different filter softwares to try to prevent these things from happening. Gary, I'm coming with you. Do you think social media is doing enough to stop social media, to stop cyberbullying, or is it a free fall right now?
I think they're trying to address the problem, putting the information out there. They are allowing people to report people honestly and all that kind of stuff. But I think the thing is, with technology always changing, there's always different platforms, always different systems. Years ago it was MySpace, now it's Facebook. So platforms are changing all the time. You got Snapchat, Instagram. So I think it's just a lot for someone to kind of go and view and make sure things are not offensive, or to set up algorithms to kind of catch keywords when you know that the terminology is always changing. It is a fight these companies are up against, with everything always changing. But there is one thing that I forgot to mention in one of my responses that I wanted to kind of add. 60% of cyberbullying is of people viewed other people being bullied and having that in. And I think that's an alarming number, where you have people standing by watching someone constantly get bullied without reporting it. And I think, when you talk to some of our old time beliefs, snitches get stitches and things of that nature. When you have people just sitting back watching
that
people.
I was saying that is something we consider bullying.
Well,
Okay.
I'm talking about both sides of that. You have the side of, okay, I'm not going to say anything. I'm watching this person get bullied, and I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to be a part of it. It's not impacting me. I'm gonna sit on the sideline and just let whatever happen. And then you have other people that say, hey, I know you saw this. If you say something, I'm gonna come get you next. Those are all different aspects that I think that we have to talk to people and say, hey, right is right, wrong is wrong. And if you can prevent someone from, because we haven't gotten to the other side of this, is some people take cyberbullying to the extreme and you have suicides. Well, I think if you go back and talk to those people who say, well, I knew this person was getting bullied. If I had a chance to save a life, would I have saved a life? I think the answer would have been most definitely, instead of just sitting back and not saying anything.
Definitely, when you mentioned suicide, I think we had the number on it earliness. I'm trying to find the number for you, but it's kind of staggering numbers how children are prone to suicide. I mean, matter of fact, that's kind of sparked this conversation when you was talking about a young lady that was cyberbullied and unfortunately committed suicide. Is that our fault as parents? Are we not paying attention to our kids? Ron, I mean, I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit. Is that our fault? Are we too easy on our kids? Do we just let them, watch everything on YouTube? And is YouTube and social media our babysitter? Is World Star will have made us numb? But seeing fights on the internet, people just sit there and stroll, and you'll see World Star fights for 20, 30 minutes an hour. Does that make us numb? And are we the cause of this? I mean, I don't know. Help me out with that.
The numbness comes from the fact that parents are so busy being parents. That means paying for and providing for their children. And so there's not a lot of parenting going on. Teachers, educators, principals spend more time with your children than you do. You really think about it in a daily basis. They spend somewhere in the neighborhood about 6 to 8 hours with your kids. Identifying that though, I had a story, man, I wanted to tell, and it was an old classic story of bullying. A young man by the name of O'Shawn went to junior high school with me, but he was also in a program that I was a part of called Higher Achievement Program. And O'Shawn had a pair of Timberland. And man, he took a lot of pride in those Timberlands because he didn't, his mom wasn't necessarily well off or anything like that. As those Timberlands started to wear down and get bad, O'Shawn got so discouraged by life, he took and hung himself over shoes. He lost his life. And when I reflect back on those things are situations that shape me in terms of like how I talk to, interact with, engage with people, because the nature of bullying prompts one to feel as if they're alone, isolated, and essentially they don't have anywhere to go. And that's when I observed the suicide demon, I call it, start speaking to them, and then kids plug in and they make poor choices. I think we as parents can do a little bit more. I think sometimes we have to engage in conversations that we're not necessarily comfortable with. And I think we have to kind of bridge that gap. And then also be more of a village. If you see a child in your community or someone that's a part of your community or somebody you know, and that child just doesn't look right to you, have a conversation. Pick up a conversation. Engage them. Never know what you'll find out. It might be a blessing to them.
Definitely, it's true. Quinn, what's your thoughts on that? I'm kind of give you a little open ended. So, what's your thoughts on what Ron was speaking of, as far as from the teacher standpoint, or how, or are there techniques and stuff that you're learning to kind of deal with annoying children's with demeanor or change of demeanor from a teacher standpoint refers to bullying. What's your thoughts?
First, I want to say y'all have kind of been dating us. Y'all have been dating yourselves when you bring up MySpace, Facebook, and then World Star Hip Hop. Y'all are dating yourselves just a little bit.
Well, we are.
Y'all mentioned Twitter not once, and Twitter may be Twitter is the wild, wild west.
What about WhatsApp app? Okay, WhatsApp app? Is that in the realm? We are talking to the whole here. We didn't experience cyberbullying growing up. We didn't have something as cyberbullying. So this is new territory for us.
And that's actually a key point. So first off, to answer your question, no. I cannot tell you 5 people who use WhatsApp.
Okay.
But you actually just said it, because y'all didn't grow up with social media.
That's
a lot of parents do not understand cyberbullying. So a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, you're being bullied over the phone. Just turn your phone off." No, that's not how that's not gonna work. Because unfortunately, you've already seen it, and as a child, they don't have a lot of life experience. So when they immediately see that, that's gonna be going through their head all day. Especially if you say, "Oh, just turn the phone off," because now you're just sitting in your room doing nothing except thinking about what just happened. As far as what?
Hey, stay on there for a second. Don't get off this. Stay on there for a second. Okay, I'm gonna come with you, because again, you're the only one that actually has been in a situation where you could experience that. Like I said, we didn't experience that growing up. What is the emotional transition that happens in that situation when somebody say something online? Why is it so hard as to cut? Cause we can cut. I would say, you know what? Like Gary says, this is stomping my bones. Words never hurt me, so I ain't gotta deal with you. Why is that gap so difficult for children? And so explain that to us. Jump on that for us.
Because first off, back in the day, words did hurt y'all. Except those words that hurt y'all back then were words that we cannot say on live out in the public.
I mean, we went on vacation, so we're not that old, sir. We're not that old, but come on, we on that generation, sir.
It was y'all, the generation y'all grew up with Caucasian peoples calling your words the hard R. The words y'all use for the LGBTQ community. Those words, in fact, there's a lot. I think I saw a poll a while ago where someone said there's not a lot of people from this generation who were gay, and there's a lot in my generation and the generation next. And a woman asked, "Well, why? How come there weren't that many gay people who were in her generation?" And one of the answers was because a lot of them unfortunately killed themselves because of what they went through. Because
I'm gonna push back on you. I'm gonna push back on you a little bit.
So the words do hurt.
But hold up, now.
You don't turn your phone off, and you're just thinking about what was said to you. You think about what was said.
Hold up, Quinn. I'm gonna correct you. I think, as far as gay, I think we had just as many gays in our generation than their generation. The key was we didn't. It wasn't talked about. It wasn't talked about. Right, it wasn't discussed.
But I think that's why that's like blood pressure. It's like the silent killer. I remember that situations that would happen, and when I say silent killer, it's like when you get situations that happen in school, if you're getting bullied, you're less inclined to tell a family member or loved one what's going on with you. You just gonna try to fix it. And when you try to fix it, a lot of people are not necessarily equipped to fix the problem.
That's another thing.
And so essentially, I know for me, in the situations or the circumstances that I had where there was bullying or there was aggression or people were aggressing against me, a lot of times I chose to figure it out, or I took a butt whipping. And then there's times where I gave some, but I took my fair share too. Because I had one of them them late birthdays. So a lot of the kids that I was hanging around with was always older than me, physically a little bit more mature. And, you know, I would my fair share. But I mean, essentially, the biggest thing, and this is the one thing that I would do at times if I was at home, and this has caused me a lot, like Hank, he said he would come in the house from fighting. Heck, I would go get my mom before the fight happened. And then my mom, let check me out though. My mom would take me back out there and ask the young man, do you want to fight my son? And if his answer was yes, then it was on and popping.
That is actually another thing. A lot of kids who unfortunately get bullied now are, dang, Jimmy Butler's carrying the heat. A lot of kids who get bullied now were probably told by their parents, hey, do not hit anybody. So, and back in the day, back in the day, that wasn't a thing. That wasn't really. It was, hey, if someone hit you, hit back. Nowadays, and plus nowadays, a lot of kids will get in trouble for retaliation, and there's other kids who know that, so they'll egg them on, bully them, egg them on, knowing once they get a response from that child, that a lot of times the other child's gonna get in trouble. It's like when there's a lot of football, there's people who play football here. A lot of times the person who got hit and the person who hits back is the one who gets in trouble. A lot of people know that.
It's interesting you say that. And my son got into a situation with a kid, and the kid threw the ball at his head. Mm-hmm. I think he hit him in the head. And Ron didn't do no talking. He stuck him, bow. And the kid nose just bled out, and it was bad. I was like,
I have never got a hold of my children for defending themselves. I never. Because when I was growing up, I got to put my fair share, but I mean, so I was a studying fat kid. So the jokes ran fluid. So the jokes, but what it did for me though, jokes ran fluid. But what it did for me, I mean, and because this is my parents, because my parents gave my self-esteem a push every day. Look good, dress good. So when I get the haters, it made me talk a little more trash back to you. Okay, yeah, it's fine, but then that's what we gonna do. I remember a story with Quentin, and I know Quentin don't remember the story, but I'm gonna tell it. Quentin was in kindergarten, man. We was at a school, St. Joe, Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania. Shout out to all the family in the Lake Harmony, Pocono area. That's where shout out to the peeps up there in PA. And this kid, man, we're taking to school. He get in line, and this kid will push him. And Quentin not a violent. He was at the bed like kindergarten. So I told Quentin, now the next time that boy push you this morning, you got the right to handle your business. So the boy pushed him this day, and Quentin looked right at me. I just gave him the head nod. Yeah, you can go do what you gotta do. And Quentin, we got up on the board, we whipped on him a little bit, and after that, you never had no problems, because we was always told the best way of handling the bully is he punch him right in the daggone mouth. And that's how we was taught. That was how we was taught.
Here's the thing I remember: there are kids. You can tell a kid that, but there are some kids who just are not born fighters.
But Quinn, you can't tell kids that today. This day, I can't. If you was that age, I couldn't give you that advice. Correct. I couldn't give you that advice.
How about there's two things. This day and age, you can't tell a kid that, because, like I said, the kid who retaliates will most likely get in trouble unless unless someone saw it first.
You know what though?
I'm going deeper, and I'm just going.
That's the awareness of the teacher though. That's the one thing. Like those teachers or people that are in authority generally have an awareness of who it is. Like they know these kids. They actually know them a little bit better than their parents, because they monitor and watch them. They see like little things and quirks that the children have that parents don't see. And so when they see them, you got one or two choices. You could look at him and be like, man, that little boy whacked out of his mind, or little girl, or you can help that child out.
But I'm going to go with you with this. What's the relationship between bullying and gun violence, or kids bringing guns to school to retaliate, or guns at school shootings? Do you think there's a correlation in that?
I
mean, I think you do, because we were talking about hurt people hurt other people. So if you are going through the process of getting bullied, getting the guidance, then your response may be, oh, I need to take control of this situation. I'm not big enough to fight him, or I'm not confident enough to fight him. But if I bring a little firearm with me, maybe that even the odds. Maybe I can scare him. So I can see that potentially having an impact if you get touched and you retaliate. I don't have the numbers to say, how often that occurs, but I can definitely see if you're being bullied and threatened and like you don't have any option other than yourself with a firearm, you take a firearm to school. You may take a knife to school. You may take some other device to school.
Well, jump on there, Andy.
That at that point, that's kind of having this bad parental figure or older figure. So, why as an adult or someone older than a child would you say, hey, take this whipping to school with them?
Well, no, I don't think the parents would say that, but you got kids bringing guns to school without parents' knowledge. The young kid in Virginia, the mother gonna pay for it. I think she getting charged for it, but the 6-year-old, she didn't know that the kid had a gun.
No, what I'm saying is, we know where he got it from.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, there's somebody like there's a kid in Chicago I saw who I think he got shot and killed at school, but the photo that they used to show who he was, it was him on Instagram posing with a gun at 14. Now, someone had to give him a gun and give him the okay to walk around with it. Now I understand Chicago, that's a whole different one of those areas is a whole different place. But if it wasn't a parent, somebody told him it was okay to bring a weapon to school. When that's a whole different problem as far as why we letting. If you think it's okay to give a child a gun, I don't think you should have own a gun either. Which
I agree.
Respect the gun laws.
I agree. I'm gonna come with you with this. Have the parents dropped the ball with trying to be too friends with our kids? Because I know, and Quinn will tell you, we going there, I'm gonna monitor it all. I'm gonna see it out. If I gotta take your phone and go through your phone 2 or 3 times a day, if I gotta take the doors off the hood just to make sure I get your attention as a parent, this is what we gonna do because it's so important. Have parenting, have we missed the mark? But because kids, in 2 ways, have we missed the mark? One way, by not monitoring our kids, and have we missed the mark by not being that example? Because if the kids see daddy with the gun in the holster walking around the house, or the kids see mom and daddy cussing and fussing all the time, does that, what effect would that have on the bully or the bullier? What you think?
I was telling you, G.
Okay. I said you.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, what effect would it have on the? I mean, honestly, man. You tend to.
When you're done, Ron, Q, you get on. Go ahead, Ron.
You tend to mirror. You tend to mirror the behaviors that you see.
Right.
One of the things psychologically I kept in my head since I took my first psychology class 101. 90% of your behavior is modeled. So essentially what you see is a replication. That's why it's so important for the parent to be a solid person to download into your child. But then also the community as well. And I think essentially, man, Hank, honestly, man, this is my humble opinion. We're all generally too busy, too plugged into the matrix to attend to a lot of these children. So the television and social media is rimming them. A lot of us economically can't afford generally just to work one job based upon circumstances and situations.
Facts.
So if parents I got a parent that I work with, real solid person. but her focus and her objective is to buy her kids nice things. What has an imbalance there? Not because she wants it to be there, but because she deems it important that she provides, because the significant other is not provided. So she got to make it happen. But then there's something that lacks in there. And those are the things that we're talking about. Like, that's the loss, the things that we can't see. Because it's the time. And I didn't realize this. My daughter was a junior. It's certain things, a sophomore, junior. It's certain things she wanted from me that she couldn't verbalize. She really just wanted my time. And Daddy was so locked in on trying to provide that the social emotional connection at times. So those are things that we have to essentially nurture. And it's sometimes when those things have slipped, or they may not have necessarily been there, or the roles and the dynamic in your household doesn't dictate that. You know, I don't want to tell all my personal business on this story, but there's reasons why me and my daughter didn't have the closest relationship at points in time. And there's aspects of things that eventually over a period of time, my kids are going to find that bear out to be right. But when they're in the midst of these bullying things, to kind of educate them, because they don't want to share with you. Because the first thing they're going to say is, man, Dad, you don't understand.
Well, and I had to go through that, and I'm quick, but I'll make quick get on first, then I go. But go ahead, Q.
What I was going to say is, I think there is, so you're sort of right. There are parents who are too friendly with their kid, let them get away with a lot. But there is that opposite extreme where parents are way too overbearing. And that can have an effect that goes both ways, where the parent is too much in power control of their child, and like I said, then that child feels like, oh well, then I want to feel this power, and then they go bully a child, or the opposite way, where it kills a child's self-esteem. And then when someone else starts talking, and then someone else gets on them, they don't know what to do. They're used to just cowering away when someone with a little bit of power gets on them. So it is a mix of it actually is both. It is, you can be too friendly and you can be too controlling. So if you are the parent who is constantly, you can't do this, don't do this, can't wear this, can't wear that, in your phone all the time, that's going to have an effect to either child's going to put someone to feel some type of power, or they're going to not know how to deal with when someone else tries to take power over them, and vice versa with when you're friends with you're too friendly with your child, and child thinks they can get away with whatever, and then they get around another child and think, oh well, I can do this because I do this at home. And no, you can't. That's not how it works everywhere else. Your parents just too open.
Yeah, I mean, and parents are now, but people that gonna run, and all the good dads, boy. Our precious daughters, we when they get to high school, man, they change so rapidly, and you get on the head. And we're trying to work, and you trying to work and come home and still be a disciplinary and not getting the whole picture, or you think you got the whole picture until the child actually can speak to you, or you have time to speak to you. I get the point I'm making is my lifelong lesson is always be open to have that conversation with your child and be able to listen to them and understand. Again, coming out, I know you come and get you back in the conversation. I know you recently, and your father, not the person, but what are some of the things that you feel you can put in place, or is there anything you can put in place now, as young as your child is, to stop this for cyberbullying? Is there anything you can put in place now, or any ideas you kind of have some structure around that?
I mean, I think one of the things we kind of talked about is having a relationship with your child, having the right kind of relationship. Because I think, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 10 years from now, it's going to be something else that is out there. It may not be cyberbullying. It's going to be another problem. And you're going to have to depend on having a relationship with your child to communicate whatever that issue is, so you can face that issue together as a parent and child. So I think I think what I would say to put in place is developing a good, healthy relationship with your child so you can communicate good things, bad things, and everything in between, so that if it's cyberbullying, if it's whatever the new thing may be in the future, you can work together as a team to resolve it.
Your last word, Q.
I was gonna say this. I was gonna say something to parents out there. And I'm gonna have to implement too if I become a parent. There are some conversations that your child is going to want to have that you're not gonna be ready for, and that is okay. What you shouldn't do, Jimmy Butler really got 51. What you shouldn't do is just not have the conversation. Instead, either do research to try and be knowledgeable on that. I think it's okay to when the child comes to you with something and you say, "Oh, I don't know. Let me figure out," or point your child in the right direction. If you don't know the answer, I'm pretty sure either you know somebody, or you know somebody who knows somebody that will be of better help. Instead of just not having a conversation because you don't know how to have that conversation. But just not having a conversation or running away from the conversation if you don't know how to deal with it, that will do a lot more bad than good.
Facts. Ron, I'm gonna end with you, but I want to end you with this question. What are some of the signs that I know being dealing with kids, you done seen a lot of, 20 some span years in the business. What are some of the signs that we can tell when the children is going through this stress, like cyberbullying? Was that? And so you got the last word tonight, Allie, after that.
Withdrawal, change in hygiene. And when I say change in hygiene, like, they may not wear favorite things. They may wear some of their favorite things. Withdrawal from friends. Anxiousness. Not wanting to go places that they would typically go. You have to be conscious of monitoring like those interactions. Those are some of the things that I've seen. But what I tell parents, and I try to do this intermittently with my kids, just do a check-in. Maybe once a week. I would recommend maybe once every 2 weeks having a family meeting. And why do I say family meeting? The family meeting facilitates communication in the midst of everybody that's present, right? And then after you transition out of that family meeting and you conduct those family meetings, what are your kids gonna do when they get older, when they need attention? Conduct family meetings.
The family meetings.
And then when we all learn how to communicate one to another, then we eliminate a lot of the misconceptions about our community. And we gotta be more functional towards communication, and then that way we break down some of these barriers that are present.
You got something to say, Q?
Yeah, to backpack off what Ron said, also understand your child may not know how to communicate if something's going on. So family meeting is a good idea, but also understand your child may not know how to communicate what's going on. So at the same time, don't try and force them to have the conversation. So if they're not ready to have a conversation, just say, "Hey, my door is open when you want to talk about it." And then when they're ready to talk about it, don't say, "Oh, not yet." When you say, "Door's open, ready to talk about it," be ready whenever they're ready to talk, because you don't know when they're going to be ready to talk about it. They may be the worst time for you, but you gotta be there when they're ready to talk about it, because you don't know if they're gonna be ready to talk about it again.
Yeah, just to add to that, because I think Ron said something very important about having the family meeting. And I think another key aspect in that family meeting is to, as the parent, don't look at it as just trying to get information from the kid. Share some of the stuff that you may be going through so they can understand and learn how to communicate through modeling the parent. So if you're having a stressful day, say, hey, I had a stressful day, I acted out of character, I shouldn't have did this. You don't have to get it all to the detail, but let them know that, hey, even as a parent, you may go through things, and also the way that you communicate to the family, the way that they will learn how to communicate their issues to the family as well. That's all.
What we did as parents, what I did as parents, we didn't necessarily have the meeting every 2 weeks, because our goal was to break bread with each other every day. And I know how difficult that is with work schedules and different activities you're in, but we kind of find a way a couple of days a week when it's dinner time. The phones are put away. We're not on the phones. The TV's in the other room. The TV may be on, but the TV's in the other room, and we are sitting having dinner as a family. And I think that helped us a lot, because now if I see you every day, I can see your changes. I guess I can see your mood changes. So you don't have to tell me something's wrong, 'cause I can look at you and see something's wrong. So I can kind of peel those onions back. But those are some tidbits, guys, that we want to share with our audience. Hey guys, thanks for listening. I hope the audience got a little something from this. Again, we're here to not only have fun and debate and talk about the heavy topics, but also to inform you. And like always, guys, may your next move be the game changer. Good night.